Yes, here we go. A very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. It is a Tuesday morning, and let me tell you, man, what a fabulous looking Tuesday morning. We've had some beautiful days here in Grenada, but something about this morning stood out. It was the first time in a fairly long time that I looked up and didn't see any clouds overhead. Out there on the western horizon, yes, there was some tiny little cumulus clouds. I think in meteorological terms they're referred to as fractocumulus. But no clouds overhead. Just a gorgeous morning here in the Spice Isle. And of course, it's a great pleasure to have you with us. And we certainly hope that the next few minutes are going to be very entertaining. Not as entertaining as informative for you. We're going to take a look at something the Trades Union Council came out and said this week. And also, we're going to take a look at the weekend convention of the new National Party. Some very interesting comments were made there as well. And then you have the national report, and haven't heard from him yet, but you know that Brother Ray Roberts is supposed to join us every Tuesday morning, and we're certainly hoping to hear from him a bit later on. But let's start with the GTUC. The Grenada Trades Union Council says that it is deeply concerned that the matter of Grenada having the Caribbean Court of Justice as its final court of appeal should not be decided along partisan lines of political parties. The GTUC is, therefore, offering its services to be a facilitator for the NNP, the NDC, the CCJ Advisory Committee, and other stakeholders to meet and discuss the matter most urgently. The GTUC would also be willing to chair that meeting, which would consider only ideas for revision of the CCJ bill, which are already in the public domain as of the 26th of October. Let's see where that one goes. Those of you who watched Face the Facts on Sunday night saw the head of the GTUC and a number of other people discussing the referendum. I don't know, somehow I get the feeling that they were sort of spinning top in mud. Anyhow, we'll see whether or not that offer from the GTUC is accepted by those in authority. Now, at Sunday's new National Party convention, Energy Minister Gregory Bowden admitted that the oil exploration process undertaken by the Global Petroleum Group had run into some financial difficulties. But that has now been cleared up, and they have been able to continue with the work of drilling 3 more wells, as well as to conduct all of the production work which will be necessary. And this is all happening thanks to an agreement with a Chinese group. Mr. Bowen did not elaborate on the name of the Chinese group nor the arrangement. Okay? However, he did caution Grenadians to be careful about laying claim to an asset in its oil and gas find, since impurities in both oil and gas could make them not viable. In other words, don't count your chickens before they're hatched, okay? He advised that Grenadians wait for another year before saying that they are out of the economic doldrums. Okay? Now, here's Mr. Bowen.
You have heard that we have found gas so far because we have only drilled one well. We must drill 3 other wells. Financing was a problem. But I am happy to report that investors have now teamed up with a group from the People's Republic of China who will be provided the financing not only to drill the other 3 wells, but to conduct all the production that is necessary, brothers and sisters, for Grenada to benefit. For Grenada to benefit. But we know what's out there. We listen to Brother Chester. We must not say at this point in time that we have an asset. Because we could go out there and find a lot of gas, a lot of oil, but the contents, the impurities could make it not viable. So let us wait. Let us wait for the next year when we drill the wells before we can say that we are out of the doldrum economically, brothers and sisters. You remember they were saying that we did not. We listened from, we heard it from Trinidad and Tobago. Did you give Trinidad and Tobago all? But let me tell you, brothers and sisters, if Gregory Bowen or the Prime Minister Keith Mitchell had gone out and said that we have a pact with Trinidad and Tobago to purchase all the gas that we will be extracting from our waters, and that Trinidad and Tobago will be building a pipeline from the platform in our waters to Trinidad and Tobago so that they can purchase and refine the gas, what would they say? Lie, lie, you're boasting. But the minister from Trinidad and Tobago said so, but you had a different story. Well, you give them everything. So we can't please everybody.
All right, so that was the comment made at Sunday's convention. Now, Mr. Bowen then turned to the CCJ and made it clear that he does not believe that there are persons who actually support the CCJ, even though they may have concerns about it.
You see this thing, I support but? Forget that. I support but? Forget that. As the speakers before me have asked, let all of us come forward. Let all of us go out. Let all of us do what we know that we can do and bring out our people and others. Don't let our own people say, well, we know that when our people come out, we will be successful. But we have seen the attitude out there. Some of them, it's not an election. Well, we don't have to vote for Dr. Mitchell. We don't have to vote for Gregory Bowen. We don't have to vote for Clarence Charles. So why come out? It is our fundamental duty and responsibility to go to pick them up, brothers and sisters, on the morning, to watch them when they go to work, because if you only allow them to go to work, half of our task will already be defeated. Bring them there early morning, just as we say on election day. Come out and vote yes to the CCJ. Because all the gains that we are making, all the gains that we will make, an institution of justice will ensure that the benefit remains with us and will not be taken away. The CCJ belongs to us. It is our culture. A decision and justice will be made within our sphere of influence.
Now, obviously, Mr. Bowen was not the only voice heard at that gathering on Sunday. Dr. Keith Mitchell believes that there is very good reason why his government is receiving financial support from external sources. Take a listen.
Sisters and brothers, the reason we are getting significant financial support is because we're behaving ourselves. Now, Brother Simon Steele told you we got $125 million recently to do sewage work and a number of infrastructural work through the Green Climate Fund. If we had not behaved ourselves, we would not have got $125 million, sisters and brothers. But more than that, we have been allocated, like several countries in the region, 65 million US dollars from IDA. Sisters and brothers, but there are conditions laid down to get this. Grenada is the only country that have got 30 million US dollars of that money that came in 3 weeks ago, sisters and brothers. My friends, we have $35 more million to get. If we misbehave and we break the rules that we agree on, we would lose $35 million US. You know what that amounts to? 94 plus million EC dollars. Sisters and brothers, I don't believe any Grenadian want this country not to get $94 million EC. I make this point, sisters and brothers, for what it's worth.
That was Prime Minister Mitchell. Now, at the convention, he also says that he sees that his party is the only hope for Grenada at this particular time and sees it as a unifying force. He also didn't miss the opportunity to urge his supporters to put their best foot forward in the run-up to next Tuesday's general election. By the way, just in case you didn't realize it, not election, it's a referendum. But just in case you didn't realize it, that referendum is going to be held 1 week from today. More from Prime Minister Mitchell.
This party represents the only hope for Grenada at this particular time. This party is the one that is bringing people together. This party is the one that is prepared to take the strong decisions and not to worry about political consequences. What is best for Grenada must be best for the NNP and every other political party. Therefore, sisters and brothers, your CCJ, you heard enough about that tonight. This last week, everyone must put our best foot forward. This last week, sisters and brothers, give this last week for our children and grandchildren's future. I ask every single one of you, you will be seeing a lot more activity around the country. But everyone, not just vote, but encourage others to vote. Sisters and brothers, this is our country. This is our future. And therefore, the NNP is taking the leadership in ensuring that we're doing what is right for all future generations of this country. So once again, let me thank every single one of you for being here tonight. I love every single one of you. Let's continue to come work together, build together, and build this beautiful country of ours.
Alrighty, folks, so those 4 clips were just a little bit of what went on at this past weekend's convention of the new National Party. Time now coming up on 15 minutes after 9 o'clock. Gorgeous Tuesday morning here in the Spice Isle. And I think right now we need to take a little break, pay some bills, and then we'll come on back with the National Report.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
For convenience, bill payments can be made at Bill Express at Western Union. Many of these are open until 6 p.m., including Saturdays. A 24-hour check drop box is also available at Grenlex customer care centers at Grand Anse and Bruce Street.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing.
A commemorative postage stamp.
So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Pure Grenada, the Isle of Spice, is more than a slogan. Grenada boasts some of the world's best spices like nutmeg, mace, clove, ginger, turmeric, and true cinnamon. These clean and naturally safe pesticide-free spices that were once available only in local markets are now one mouse click away at GRENADABROADCAST.com. Our spices are responsibly harvested in small batches to preserve freshness, unlike some bulk spices that sit around in silos all year round. Log on to www.GRENADAMarket.com and shop for Grenada's best spices. GRENADAMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Framework for Youth Declaration on Climate Change to be drafted at one-day Youth Symposium on Climate Resilience and the Environment. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for today, Monday, October 29th, 2018, I am Rakisha St. Louis. Young people in Grenada will this week be engaged in a two-part symposium on climate resilience and the environment, which is intended to design a framework for Youth Declaration on Climate Change. The Youth for Climate Resilience and the Environment Symposium, to be held on Wednesday, is a national conference of youth which seeks to provide information about climate change and energy as an important national, regional, and global subject. It is also designed to introduce the international climate negotiating process to youth, while also looking at Grenada's preparations for the UN discussions on climate change in Poland in December. Head of the Environment Division, Mrs. Aria St. Louis, says as they prepare for the discussions, they are receiving important documents like the 1.5 degree special report.
For over 10 years now, Grenada and other small island developing states have called for a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and to keep them well below the kind of impacts that are caused by above 1.5 degrees C. And I know people will remember the 1.5 to stay alive and the 350 parts per million as being our upper limit. And this year, they actually collated all the science and the work that has been done specifically looking at how the global community can limit greenhouse gas warming to below 1.5 degrees. It's never been done before. So in the past, we have been calling for this, and it has taken almost 10 years of consistent asking for this to finally emerge. And what has been crystallized now is a really important document because it can guide the global community towards a different trajectory. Right now, we're above 1.1 degree limiting, and we're moving towards 1.2 rapidly. So in order to curb that huge increase that we are seeing globally, and I think this will be an important part of the discussions in Poland this year, we need to move towards a trajectory and pathway that limits global warming to well below 1.5.
The symposium is broken up into a morning session which will inform young people about climate change and energy, while the afternoon session will address how the youth can get involved in these activities at the local level. Royden Bihari is a member of the planning committee for the Youth Climate Resilience Symposium.
We anticipate a strong and vivid youth declaration that will be the outcome of the morning session on Wednesday, because that youth statement will be developed, and that outcome will be made by the youth for the youth. So it's by the youth for the youth, and we think that that's the best way we actually can champion the causes of climate change, resilience, and energy when our young people feel that and actually are definitely engaged in the process from the bottom up and not from the top down approaches.
Right. The health sector will be equipped with 10 functional ambulances by year end. That announcement was made by Health Minister Nicholas Steele at the sword turning ceremony of the St. John St. Mark Polyclinic last Friday. Minister Steele announced that by the end of November, he will receive 5 new ambulances that will service the entire country. This move will remedy the problem that the health sector has faced for many years due to insufficient ambulance. Minister Steele said the decision to negotiate to have 10 functional ambulances is in keeping with the Pan American Health Organization or PAHO standards.
Next week, I intend to receive and hand over 2 brand new ambulances. And before the end of November, I intend to receive and hand over again 3 more. By the end of November, the complement of working ambulances not more than 2 or 3 years old will be 10. 10 in total, which is the amount that Pan American Health Organization says, and we have determined is the right amount to service our population.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
The CCJ will be a Caribbean court, reflective of Caribbean culture, Caribbean values, and everything Caribbean. I ask this question: which court do you think will adequately reflect the views of Caribbean people to those who worry? Will it be the Privy Council, persons in Britain, persons who have never lived in Caribbean, persons who don't share our values, persons who don't understand what we stand for and what values we uphold? Or would it be our people who have grown among us, who live among us, who attend the churches we attend, who attend the schools we attend, who are members of the soccer teams that we are members of? Who best do you think will reflect us?
It's about time. It's long overdue. We should be there because, get out of the British thing, and so we are all one Caribbean, and I think that will be binding us more together.
Yours is yours. Privy Council is not ours. No matter what we do, what we say, no matter what ties we had to England, this is the time to keep divesting ourselves of those strings that tie us unnecessarily.
There's nothing in this bill for any partisan political party. Nothing. There's only one thing in this. It's for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and for the Caribbean region as a whole.
Justice has to be accessible, affordable, and swift.
Welcome back. CARICOM heads of government will meet in Trinidad close to the end of the year to discuss issues pertinent to regional development. During the government's recent post-cabinet briefing, Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell said the subject of CSME will be high on the agenda.
We'll be having a major conference of heads of government in Trinidad on the 3rd of December this year to look at what is now taking place with CSME and some of the problems, and look at how we can move and aggressively get CSME to function more effectively and to give the region the promise that we gave them several years ago when we started this entire process.
And finally, plans are on the way for the widening of roads in close proximity to the Lacroix Brothers Funeral Home in St. George's, as the Ministry of Infrastructure prepares to demolish some of the existing walls. Chief Technical Officer in the ministry, John St. Louis, says the walls have interfered with the smooth flow of vehicular traffic and pedestrian safety in that area. He is optimistic that once these are removed, the problem will be remedied.
This section will be the area with the greater in terms of demolition and widening. As you see, we are entering the intersection there, and it's basically at a 90-degree angle. So we try to widen that curve to make that curve much wider, a proper driving curve, so that the motorists again can have a better appreciation on the way they're driving. Because as you'll see, you have traffic from the River Road side, from the St. George's side, and from the cemetery. So they should have some degree of visibility in terms of how they maneuver. So by improving that intersection will make it much easier for the motorists. So as again, we'll be widening as far back as possible. As I said, we had the surveyor doing, picking up all of the details to inform our final design in terms of the best intersection that we can get, given the constraints that we have.
St. Louis says the 2 electric poles within the scope of work will also have to be relocated to allow for the work to be carried out without delay.
You see the amount of wire, high tension wire, low tension, and other combination with flow. So this, we already had a site visit with the utility company, and they have agreed to do the relocation of the pole so that we can start our roadworks as soon as the tendering process is completed.
That story just brought the curtains down on the national report for today, Monday, October 29th. Let's recap the top story. Framework for Youth Declaration on Climate Change to be drafted at one-day youth symposium on climate resilience and the environment. On behalf of all those who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for viewing. Until next time.
GRENADA Community Partnership Initiative.
We at the Dorothy Hopkins Center can always rely on you for your steadfast help. It's always forthcoming. We have seen the benefits already. Our bill has been reduced, I was told, by over 40%, and that is welcome because that translates to more care for the residents. And so, thanks again.
GRENADA, energizing our community.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. and we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And GRENLEC is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
GRENLEC, energizing our Grenada.
Well, folks, that's just about going to do it for today's abbreviated version of Gudday, Grenada. As you probably noticed, we haven't seen or heard from Ray this morning. Guess he probably got tied up. Don't know if he's in traffic or what have you. But we do look forward to seeing him back here next Tuesday morning. Now, to pull the curtain down as we do every morning, I've got something that I hope will be of some help to you as you settle down to face the challenges of this day. You know, so many things keep coming up in our busy lives these days, and a lot of people often wonder, geez, how do I cope with this? How do I cope with that? Well, I'll tell you what. Here is one verse, single verse from the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That reading from the book of Isaiah 41, verse 10. Well, you are not going to believe this. But even as I speak to you, I have just said to you, Ray is probably tied up in traffic and unable to join us this morning. Pilgrims, let me tell you what. The man just walked through the door. Just walked through the door. So, let me take another little break here. We were just going to wrap this up. Let me take another little break here, and we'll say good morning to Ray in just a wee bit. So hang in there.
It's good to be early. To be early. Pay your GRENLEC bill on time.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing.
A commemorative postage stamp.
So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Conveniently located in the Grandand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, food fair, Grenadans would deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and food fair will deliver to you?
Yep,
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
All right, take a look. See? He actually made it. Ray, you come on, man. Was this deliberate to make me wet my diapers this morning?
Not at all. In fact, I was close by, but not too far from you. There is a viewing point for cruise ship passengers and tourists in general.
Right,
so the taxi drivers, they park their vehicle one after the other, and you can't really get through very quickly.
Tourism.
Right. So these fellas are making $1 and they couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
So 4 or 5 of them are there, and then it becomes a one lane.
Yeah.
And not many of us want to wait for the other.
Right.
So I got there in any case.
Gee,
and luckily somebody moved out right in front of you and I got to park.
Oh, okay,
Right,
okay.
right.
And
So you are blessed.
I've known that for an awfully long time.
Right.
You know, speaking about tourism, I just want to give our listeners, viewers, a heads up that the tourist season began earlier this month, right? Officially.
Well, in September they had one boat.
Right.
They had none this month.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to start coming again next month. Thursday?
Yeah, I think Thursday. That's what I'm told this morning on the beach by the chair operators.
Well, I may have the schedule. Yes, I do have the schedule here. Let me pull it up and see what's cooking here. Oh, it's no, it's not going to open up for me this morning. But anyhow, we're going to be keeping listeners apprised of the cruise calls that are coming. So tell me, sir, do you know what today is?
Today is a day called Tuesday.
Right.
And it's the 30th of the month.
Right.
And I hope they are paying as of this time and continuing. I'm talking about those of us who get monthly salaries.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the first thing. I'm hoping that they're paying. And the money will be in the bank. What next? 8 days from now, there'll be the referendum.
8 days?
Or 7 days. Next Tuesday is the referendum.
Next Tuesday is the referendum, my friend.
7 days?
The 6th, yeah.
Right.
So after today, 7 days, man. Yeah, man.
Right. Well, I meant to talk a little on West Indies cricket this morning,
Well,
but I will have to leave that out. Simply because I think you have reminded me that this is perhaps the most important decision we as a people will be asked to make in many years. Yes, elections are important, but to tamper with the Constitution is always something extremely special. It has not occurred for how many years? Well, we tried it 2 years ago, it failed, and we're trying it again. Yesterday, I participated in a J.K. Roberts forum at Marshall House. It was well attended, I thought. There were more than 45 people there. When I left, I had to go to play a tennis match. And it was a very interesting discussion. It's a discussion that I think that perhaps the wider society should have heard. I know they use Facebook, social media, but those of us who may be in shops elsewhere may not be privileged to, tune in that way. But what impressed me most is that most of the people who gave not a lecture but a presentation, one of the presentations I thought really tell the story. He was speaking about an experience in his community where there was loud music, and he spoke about you actually being part of the noise campaign 10, 15 years ago. And in that area, that's Lansipini was speaking about. And the guy opened up that disco in a residential area. And the guy came and said he got permission from the police. So he called the police and said, the police, this is residential. The police said, no, we have given him a permission. So he says, what about the Noise Act? He says, after a year, it was weekends, no one could sleep. So he filed an injunction using a civil chamber and had the thing stopped, and then the case took 2 years before it was settled. And the guy was asked to pay $36,000 as compensation and cost and everything else. He said, what is interesting, he asked for $1,000 a month. The guy then made some arrangement with the lawyer and they paid $500. And he got 3 payments of $500. And then they said to him, well, the guy has stopped paying. He says, well, you have to go back to court again. So he's asking if at the lower level, I mean, it cost him so much money not to get justice because he has not been paid. And this is what? This is about 8 years now. He has not received a cent. So to get paid, he has to go back to court. So his point was, if the lower courts are functioning that way, how will we get to the CCJ? The simple reason is that your case takes so long, by the time you get there, I mean, you're exhausted as the human being. So there was other experiences which I thought they were excellent. And as I said, I think the nation was denied evidence why we all should vote not against the CCJ, but against the state of our preparation in Grenada as a nation. So nobody's voting against CCJ. The 45+ people were all saying, at some point, we have to accept it. It's a good thing. But I think your program was mentioned also. They said some gentleman called and said, if you want to get to the top, and they take out the first 3 or 4 stairs of the ladder, what do you do to get to the top? So all that was mentioned. Jimmy Bristol was there. He was one of the lawyers who spoke to. So, George, it was, to me, a wonderful program that the ordinary man in particular, who seemingly think that colonialism is what we should all rid ourselves of without having adequate replacements. I think that lecture would have been good for the society.
You know, another forum that was very impressive was a program called Time to Face the Facts.
Okay,
Jerry
he was there. Jerry was there
Jerry
too.
was there yesterday.
As well as Beverly was there too.
Right.
It was a nice cross-section of people there.
And on Jerry's program on Sunday night, you know, they had a number of people, and it was so reassuring to see that virtually everyone wants to see the CCJ happen. Everyone. But that does not mean if you have concerns about the CCJ, you're not going to voice them. And they were essentially suggesting a postponement of the date. Well, I understand as of yesterday, I found out that you better not be holding your breath for a postponement.
Well, I don't think so, but I traveled through the community. I was in the Limes yesterday, and you know, people asking me, why am I voting no? I said to them, look, I'm not voting no against the CCJ. I have always been one who support regional integration. I think we are at the stage where we have people who are maturing. But let's start in Grenada, as I said to them. You go to Dorset Charles. I said that already on this program. 21 years and he's not paid yet. So don't we need to fix something in Grenada that is working? I mean, there are so many examples. In fact, I have my own case, as I said to a man. I worked with government for 30-something years. I was appointed in 79. When I left to go in the Senate and retire, they said to me, you were seconded. Permanent secretaries told the government he was legitimately seconded by the state. Here are the documents. And they said, well, look, we'll have to get everybody who is affected. That is 5 years now. Nobody came to me. They end up giving what they call a special pension. So if we dispense injustice in this way at the local level, I mean, my case wouldn't get to the CCJ until I'm 105.
Yeah.
I still hope I'm young as that. But really and truly, I hope people, I'm getting some sense that even the supporters of the party who voted 15-0 for the government, I am surprised so many of them, and particularly ordinary people, they're asking the question, what's the speed in this? We don't understand this thing. And they'll tell you, look, they have been to the courts. So many times the case is either postponed or not called, and people and our lawyers have to do something. Many of them have a pretty terrible image out there.
Yeah.
People say they make you pay, and the thing is postponed, then you pay a retainer, and for 2 years you keep paying money and absolutely no end in sight of whatever the case is. So I would say to Ruggles and Francis, they need to find a way, whether they win or they lose, to do some work on their organization and the membership.
Restore public confidence.
Yeah, because, I mean, the list of names people are calling, sometimes you wonder if they're making that up, but then it's very ordinary people. So there is no way they could make that up except they had the experience going to them, because they're not in the same league. Yeah. So they would have had an experience with them that they want to share. So I hope people are taking time, George, to read the bill, because I think Claudia did a wonderful analysis of the bill. It's a pity that late, but I would post it up on Facebook and other areas of communication, and I hope people take time and read it.
Claudette has done an analysis of the bill, but just let me also say that as recently as 4:30 yesterday afternoon, Dr. Francis Alexis was sitting in that chair right next to you here, and he took that bill and went through it clause by clause by clause, okay? But of course, that's his perspective, or the perspective of the proponents of the CCJ. I don't know where Claudette's analysis can be found, but
I'll send it to you.
Please do.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Just digressing here for a minute, you were talking about a lot of the issues we have with the court system here in Grenada. You know what scares the heck out of me, boy? I fear that we are heading towards, if we're not yet there, a total breakdown in law and order. The man on the street commits a crime or does something that he shouldn't have done, bang. You arrest him, you charge him, may send him to jail or fine him or whatever. But it seems like those in authority whose role it is to make sure that justice is done, these are the people who are breaking the laws themselves.
Well, I think an example is the story we saw in the newspaper weekend. I think the alleged person is a senior police officer. And yesterday that was part of the discussion too, and also the failure to prepare papers. I mean, Anselm Clouden just spoke about his client after 5 years. The papers could not be circulated to the relevant people so that the case can proceed. So then again, here is a question. Why aren't we investing in getting these areas of our society, these important pillars? Because all issues that are disputed, either it is taken to a mediator, it could be a mediator who we as the people in conflict agree to meet, or we take it to the court. So the court really and truly is one of the key pillars of our democracy and our civilization. Because if there isn't that process where we can mediate or dispense justice, then we'll go back to the old days. You pick up your sword and I pick up my sword, and we battle until there's a winner. One survive and one exit. So I think we are treating the issue as, we're ridding ourselves of colonialism. Well, I don't know that I want to rid myself of something that I can't replace properly. I like the thought of having everything Grenadian, but there are something Grenadians I don't want because it's not matured. I don't think we can administer it, and therefore we need to take time. Subsequent generations will do things that we can do. So I hope again on Tuesday. I don't get the sense that there'll be a good turnout. And you spoke about Francis a while ago. As I said, Francis is one of the most eloquent speakers I've ever heard, and perhaps there is in the Caribbean. But I don't think people take much of what he said with a lot of confidence. I think people want to put a lot of salt into what he's saying. I think the haste and the speed of this thing, yes, if you're brilliant as him, maybe you can comprehend it in a quick time, but not everybody at that level. So we ought to be incrementally feeding people at their pace. And I trust that this referendum feels big. And we go back to the drafting board, and I would like to see our constitution as well as institutions that we believe the Caribbean can embraced, be part of our education at primary and secondary and tertiary. So people grow up with a sense, just as the Americans and the Canadians, they have a sense of their constitution. Nobody knows what we're talking about, replacing the Privy Council with the CCJ. I mean, that is not a part of everyday life for everybody, George. Why would I, as an ordinary man, looking to put food on the table, I have no issue with the CCJ, I have no issue with the Privy Council. Would that be a priority for me? Absolutely not. But if it's a part of my education, from pre-primary to secondary and tertiary, then it becomes natural. Prayers become natural for those of us who grew up in a praying home. We all know a little bit of the prayer, wherever we become atheist or agnostic or whatever. But the fact that we were acculturized in that way by our parents and our schools, we have a sense of God and we have a sense of morality and decency. Yes, we could lose it at a more mature age, but at that tender age, we certainly grow to respect certain symbols in our society.
You know, one of the issues that's been surfacing a lot lately is the fact that it seems like the proponents of the CCJ aren't really reaching the public. These guys are working their buns off. Don't tell me that, seriously, man, don't Ruggles and Francis, these guys, they don't sleep.
Well, they work in the media out. The media is their voice alone. One of your colleague broadcasters said he wished he could have had other people who would give a perspective on why we're not ready yet. But he noticed that the tune every day is Black Wizetta or whoever sings in favor of it. And that's it. And very little conversation on those of us who have a different take.
Now, the point I was trying to make is that, yes, these guys are working their buns off, Ray. But for some reason, you're still hearing that I don't know enough about the CCJ. I don't know enough about this bill.
Well, the language is not for the ordinary people.
They're just not reaching the people.
Well, let's face it, George. Even those who are in the parliament didn't spend much time debating. I doubt some of them read it. Because, some parliamentarians, particularly on the government side, will tell me, what am I reading this whole thing for? We have agreed, so it's just put up your hand, say, yay. But, when I was there, those of us who want to make a debate, we had to read it. And I spent time reading it. But really and truly, I don't even think the parliamentarians themselves treat it with the respect it deserves because, there was a meeting. Well, I was in St. Patrick's, but it was coming through St. Mark. There was one with CCJ, former president. What's his name again? The Justice Barron.
Yeah, Dennis Barron.
And Dave Nedden and others were there. And when I met them, they said, the maximum crowd, leave out the GIS and the entourage, was 25. 25 would be what? Would be people who are intellectual or people who maybe by the road.
Out of a population of 108,000.
Well, no, just use the parish alone. The voting population there is 2,000 something. 2,000 something.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. We have not done, and that's why I'm saying, let's make this thing a 5-year plan. We introduce it as part of our education for primary, secondary, tertiary. It is not impossible. We can learn from the Americans. They do it. We can learn from the Canadians. I'm sure they would be willing to provide us with how they were able to initiate such programs. But I think what is happening to Alexis and Ruggles and Dr. Mitchell, I think it's an ego thing for legacy. I think it has nothing to do with a willingness to make this thing work properly. I think there is, to me, a Caribbean, I say it now, a Caribbean fervor of legacy, everybody's legacy. Now, I tell folks every day, I don't know why this thing becomes such a feature in people's life. Because if you do things properly and it impacts on the society, you don't need to talk about legacy. It will be a legacy. I will never stop talking about Gary because my parents gave me a sense of what he did. The statue don't make a difference to me. I could certainly recall the revolution. They did things that we didn't like, but there were things that we liked. So to me, this being carried away with legacy, I'm not in any way disputing that we shouldn't do things and be conscious of it. All I'm saying, I find much of our politicians today, I could say many, but I don't want to maybe zero in on who people feel I'm zeroing on. The list is too long, that we are too focused on egotistic, wanting to be maybe in the first page in the history book, and I don't know how much good is that for the generation.
Ray, I don't know how much of it. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. How much of it has to do with ego or legacy, I don't know. What I can tell you about these two gentlemen, I mean, I have the greatest respect for these guys. I consider them both friends of mine. They are in here regularly, every week, okay? But it kind of hurts me when I then go out on the street and people say to me, man, your friend on them, man, they're talking, I'm not going to use the language that they say, but they're speaking down about my friends. Okay? And come on, that hurts. That hurts because you want to see your friends do well. You want to hear people say nice things about your friends. Both of these gentlemen are extremely knowledgeable about the issue we're talking about here. And for some reason, they're just not getting through to the people out there. It's disappointing and it bothers me.
Well, I think they are to be blamed because I think they know better. I think I've not heard many people. In fact, as I said, there were 40-something people in that forum yesterday. And each one...
And you consider that a big forum?
Well, it's a good forum by Grenada standard because nobody brought buses, nobody had free food, there was no free drinks. You come there, Princely, St. Louis and others, I mean, they don't need to come there. They're retirees, they could stay home and have a good time. But they were there to share their experiences of being former parliamentarians, being attorneys in the practice of law, engineers who don't need perhaps, whether the bill passes or not, they'll make money. So I think that's what I'm seeing, the cross-section of people. And they are more regionalists than a lot of us who are championing this thing, because they have done things to preserve Grenada's history in a positive way, which politicians have not done. So they were not people who come there with the consideration that they want to be a NNP or NDC, or they want to be in an election to be an ambassador. Most of these people are in the twilight of their years and only want to see good. And they have been here when things were significantly better. Not the trash that we have now. So I would say to you in closing, George, that I would just encourage people to think not just of the two political parties that may be influencing one way or the other way. All I'm saying is that we must spend time and looking at where we are at a country and see if we can manage that process that we are talking about without fixing where we are.
All right. We don't have much longer to wait, Ray. 1 week from today.
Yeah, well,
we will know.
I pray to be alive, and I would be an agent. I'm one of the agents because I want to monitor to make sure accuracy. So we have in the south actually, we have numbered how many? 10 monitors because there are 8 polling divisions. So they will be there to take a count of the votes and a count at the end of the voting. So we can have, you know, let's put it this way, an independent assessment whether or not the figures that they give us, they're giving us the figures, correspond the next day. So I hope, you know, NGOs and other people are doing that in each of the constituencies. So we would have, well, let's put it, civil responsibility as individuals.
All right, very quickly. Are you saying to me then that the voters should have more confidence in next Tuesday's electoral or referendum process than they did in the March 13th electoral process? You know, I mean, that was the shambles.
Yes, well, I don't know if it will be any better, but I know that we are from the South St. George area. We have identified some monitors. We can't find the money to pay enough, but if we have one in each polling station, and I'm sure it's people who are in the community, you certainly would know if he voted already and it returned, well, then you know that you have a complaint to file. So we're going to try to, I know it's a lot of work, but we have to play our part as a as the citizens who want to see this thing happen in fairness.
Okay. Ray, thanks
George,
a lot, bro.
Good to be with you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks
Great,
a lot.
man.
Thanks a lot.
Right.
Just don't make me wet my diapers again. I can't stand it. Alrighty, folks, this is where we're going to pull the curtain down. Thank you so much for joining us here on Facebook and those of you on platforms around the world. And also thank you very much to Ray for eventually making it in here. We do appreciate it. Look forward to hearing from him every Tuesday morning. George Grant sending God's blessings your way. And by his grace, let's get together again tomorrow morning. So long.